Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's virtual education program at Cancer Support Community South Bay. I'm Rebecca, the program manager, and I welcome you to this workshop titled How Medical Cannabis Can Support Healing. Before we begin, if this is your first time joining us, CSC South Bay's mission is to uplift and strengthen people impacted by cancer by providing support, fostering compassionate communities, and breaking down barriers to care. Our vision is that everyone impacted by cancer receives the support they want and need throughout the experience. We serve the South Bay, Long Beach, and Orange County area all at no cost. Our program includes support groups, networking groups, healthy lifestyle classes, social activities, and educational programs like this workshop. Educational programs are open to all. If you'd like to hear more about our services or join our community, please visit our website at cscsouthbay.org. Before I introduce today's two speakers, we ask you to keep your microphone muted to eliminate any distracting background noise. Please feel free to enter any general questions into the chat function found at the bottom of the Zoom window at any time. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our workshop speakers. Elisabeth Mack, registered nurse, MBA, is the founder and CEO of Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse. Sherri Mack, BSN RN, is the co-founder and chief nursing officer of Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse. You can find more information at holisticcaring.com. Thank you so much, both Elisabeth and Sherri, for being here with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca, for that warm introduction. And it is our pleasure. I have been speaking at the Cancer Support Community South Bay now since 2019, doing some live presentations and then Zoom all through COVID, and we've continued. So it's our pleasure to be here today with you, and we're going to be going through some slides and teaching you about how to use CBD and cannabis for cancer care.
But first, we have a very special video to share with you before we get started to set the stage.
Okay.
We're here to educate and empower patients to make choices that are best for them. We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I was cannabis agnostic for many, many years. And you know, the more research I did, the more I discovered that cannabis is this amazing medicine.
I was told that I had a 4-stage pancreatic cancer. The doctor really told me he couldn't do anything else. He gave me her name, and she called me, and she came to my house. She started to give me cannabis. My oncologist was puzzled because he couldn't find the cancer anymore.
All of the learning that we get comes from the Green Nurses, comes from their support, comes from their guidance. I trust everything that she says.
Simply meet people where they're at. The plant doesn't, stress to grow, so we don't stress to share it. We're healing people.
Cannabis has been used as a medicine for tens upon thousands of years. Here's the big message. Cannabis needs to be federally legal. We need to have laws that are the same across all 50 states that allow access to anyone and everyone who wants to utilize this powerful medicine.
Okay, so here we go. All right, so we always like to just have a quick disclaimer. The content provided by Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse and Bloom Hemp is not a substitute for professional medical advice. And this has not been approved by the FDA. But we do hope that you find hope in this presentation and what we're going to share with you today.
Okay, so the therapeutic use of cannabis and healthy aging with hemp CBD, just to get it started. So Mary Ann, this woman on the right here, was the first person who introduced me to medical cannabis in 2012, during a time when I was sick and suffering and on over 18 pharmaceuticals. She was a 70-year-old retired nurse, and she's a friend who visited me when conventional care had failed me, and I was completely struggling. And she shared her wisdom and cannabis harvest with me, offering me comfort and relief. The interesting thing was that she told me that she had been using cannabis every day since the age of 17, and she wasn't on any ongoing pharmaceuticals, nor had she ever been hospitalized for sickness. So that's 53 years of using just a little bit of cannabis. And she also revealed to me that her father was a pharmacist, stocked cannabis in his pharmacy prior to 1937. That was until Prohibition came along. And Marianne was also a registered nurse.
And a godsend.
And a godsend. Yes, thank goodness for Marianne. So my name is Sherri Mack. Gosh, I've been around for a long time as a nurse, 36 years as a registered nurse, 25 years in the conventional system at the Boston teaching hospitals. I have done critical care, oncology, pediatrics, geriatrics, hospice, palliative care, home infusion, and telehealth. 20 years in holistic nursing, 10 years in the plant medicine arena, caring for patients that come to us wanting to learn about cannabis as medicine, as well as psychedelics. I'm proud to be the Chief Nursing Officer and co-founder of Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse, Chief Nursing Officer of Bloom Hemp CBD, contributing author of Clark's Cannabis, a Handbook for Nurses, founder and host of the Green Nurse Award-winning podcast, and very grateful to be sitting on a lot of different organizations, founding members of Cannabis Nurses Network, International Association of Psychedelic Nurses, and I'm on the board of directors for the American Cannabis Nurses Association. This has been a passion project of mine to help educate and empower patients to make choices, as you heard on the video, that are best for them.
Okay, and I am Elisabeth Mack. And so I've been in this space for the past decade as well. Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, 9 years in hospitals, 19 in insurance company operations and sales. But I got injured and I found that CBD was instrumental in my healing process. And once I got bit by that bit of information, I needed to help others. And so I've been doing that ever since. I have had several board positions as well. And everything started with this book, Cannabis for Health, Become a Coach. And that became our programs. And so we are here today. But we're speaking to you on behalf of the American Cannabis Nursing Association as well. We are board members and part of that committee for credentialing that got the scope and standards of nursing approved by the American Nursing Association, which is the only medical professional association who is supportive of cannabis, and they have been for the past 20 years. Cannabis nursing being a specialty for nurses bridges the gap between what patients need to know and what they can get out at dispensaries. And so it is the nurse's role. Doctors are still hesitant because they're not all FDA approved, as you know, but we are here for you to learn about this.
So we're just going to get into, this is just a little reminder. I have like different color ribbons just to reflect the different types of cancers that are out there. But cancer is a disease of overgrowing cells. It affects anyone without boundaries. These cancer cells actually ignore signals controlling their rapid growth. They multiply, they divide, and then DNA mistakes cause more abnormalities and issues within systemic physiology throughout the body. So the American Cancer Society finds that 50% of all men and 33% of all women in America will develop some type of cancer in their lifetime. There are over 200 different types of cancer. Cancer spreads through the lymphatic and circulatory system, causing secondary cancers in other areas. And again, I did oncology nursing for 5 years prior to getting into the cannabis space, and how cancer is treated. You know, the conventional system creates a toolbox for patients, you know, depending upon the type of cancer, what's being effective, the staging, et cetera. People will either get surgery, they'll have chemotherapy, radiation therapy, targeted therapy, immunotherapy. They all do something different. They may mix and match and try various things. There's clinical trials. But with all of these things, we do see side effects. And, you know, the side effects that you can see this huge list here, you know, they can all be treated using cannabis as medicine, majority of them.
In addition to everything else. So, you know, when we talk about what about cannabis for cancer, there's two pathways here, right? Curative is the anti-cancer properties of cannabis, which we're going to explore for you. There are reasons why we can believe that cannabis may shrink cancer cells, restrict nutrients from them, and stop it from spreading. but it's also palliative, which is the path that most people go down when they're looking at using cannabinoids for cancer treatment. So it'll help you eat, sleep, reduce pain, anxiety, nausea, vomiting, and neuropathies, which is somewhat proven. And so we have these two paths that we're going to be exploring here today. And when we talk about cannabis and apoptosis, that is a fancy word for programmed cell death. And that is what all of our cells have, right? They have a born date and they have a death date. And it's generally, a certain period of time, 90 days. But cancer cells mutate and they lose that ability to have that off switch. But the phytocannabinoids from this plant appear to be a biologically ideal solution to help reprogram apoptosis. And in cell and animal models, cannabinoids exert anti-cancer activity against most cancers, and their generalized therapeutic effects indicate they may fight all cancers at some level. And Justin Kander, who put this book out, you can get this on Amazon, Cannabis for the Treatment of Cancer. He has another new book that is out with case studies from over 200 patients that they have been helping with cannabis oils over the years.
So the cancer killing actions of cannabinoids. So cannabinoids from the cannabis plant or hemp plant are the pleiotropic workhorse forces. That word is very fancy, pleiotropic. It means that it's going to palliate multiple symptoms and conditions all at the exact same time. We actually get a lot of our information from this book as well, The Cancer and Cannabis Connection. And so the cancer killing actions of cannabinoids in various ratios, is apoptosis, like Elizabeth just said. That's the natural process of the cell cycle where cells self-destruct when they're damaged. So cannabinoids can actually facilitate apoptosis. Cannabinoids can facilitate anti-angiogenesis, which inhibits new blood vessel formation, which starves the tumors. It can also be anti-proliferative, preventing cells, especially cancer cells, from multiplying and spreading, and also can be anti-metastatic, blocking cancer from spreading to other parts of the body. So the fourfold way of how cannabinoids can kill cancer.
Mm-hmm. And this book came out in 2017, The Health Effects of Cannabis and Cannabinoids, put out by the NIH, or the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, proved conclusively that cannabinoids have antiemetic properties and are good for chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. And that is what dronabinol was approved for back in 1985 for chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. And they're using it somewhat for cachexia or appetite stimulation as well. But it's a hard drug to tolerate, just the synthetic THC.
And this survey here was a study of breast cancer patients of cannabis before, during, and after. It was from breastcancer.org. And they did a survey that characterized cannabis use by breast cancer patients in America. So there were 612 participants. 42% responded using cannabis for relief of symptoms. And you can see that pain of 78%, 70% insomnia, anxiety, stress, nausea, and vomiting. And 49% of all cannabis users believe that medical cannabis could actually treat the cancer itself. 79% used it during treatment, including systemic therapies, radiation, and surgery. And only 39% of it discussed it with their physicians, which is a shame.
Yeah, and so that's part of our message in everything we talk about today. Make sure that you are discussing this with your clinicians, because they do need to know. Cannabis works very well collectively with conventional care. And this study came out just last month. And Frontiers in Oncology published the Cancer Playbook and Whole Health Oncology Institute that were working together. They did a meta-analysis over 10,000 studies over the past chunk of time. 70% of them showed that cannabis had pro-cancer outcomes in helping to treat, and 30% had unclear results that may or may not be favorable, but we still obviously need a whole lot more human studies. They did show tumor shrinkage and cancer cell death, but mainly in lab and animal studies. But people are using it for pain relief, chemotherapy side effects, and to manage inflammation and cancer progression. And this is one of my favorite resources. It is put out by the National Cancer Institute. If you scan that right now with your phone, you can get to this document, the Cannabis and Cannabinoids Health Professional version. There's also a patient version. And this is chock full of all kinds of studies that the National Cancer Institute keeps up. So, and I have this link that I'll be putting in the chat at the conclusion of the presentation, along with the meta-analysis of all the new data that just came out last month.
So cannabis is a marvelous healing plant. There are over 1,500 natural compounds that are actually found in the plant. The medicine, the cannabinoids, is in the cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, canaflavins, and essential fatty acids are all found in the trichomes. And those are the little resinous glands that are influenced by strain, soil, climate, and cultivation. And again, there's that big word, pleiotropic, very effective efficiency to affect many physiologies and symptoms all at the exact same time. The phytocannabinoids from the cannabis or hemp plant actually mimic the endocannabinoids that we make upon demand to correct cell signaling. And this next image is going to show that. Actually, no, not this next image, the image after. So there's 3 different types of cannabinoids. People are like, well, what are cannabinoids? Cannabinoids are molecules that interact with the endocannabinoid system. And the endocannabinoid system we're going to talk about in the next slide, but there's 3 different types of cannabinoids. Endocannabinoids we make internally. Examples are anandamide and 2-AG. The phytocannabinoids are made externally by the cannabis and hemp plant. An example is THC, CBD, and the minor cannabinoids. And then the synthetic cannabinoids the pharmaceutical companies make. Marinol and Epidiolex, just to give you an example. So THC and CBD are the phytocannabinoids that mimic our own endocannabinoids to activate the endocannabinoid system. The phytocannabinoids from the cannabis and hemp plant are 10 times stronger than the endocannabinoids that we make. And so the phytocannabinoids last for several hours as opposed to microseconds of the life of anandamide and 2-AG. And you can see here that the THC molecule that the plant makes, the anandamide molecule that we make, all fits into that nerve cell receptor to initiate a biological change, to relay cell signaling and messaging for the body to either do something or not do something. Again, and here we go, the endocannabinoid system. This is how and why these cannabinoids all work. We have a system in our body. We have receptors everywhere. The endocannabinoid system is the master regulatory system, keeping all of our other systems in balance. And you can see the umbrella depiction. I want you to imagine that you are that umbrella. And it shows the interconnectedness of all of our 11 body systems, all of the neurotransmitter signaling systems, and the endocannabinoid system is like a switchboard, sitting on top of every other system, listening, sensing, and steering our bodies back into balance. So imagine we're made of 30 trillion cells broken down into 11 organ systems, our immune system regulated by this beautiful master regulatory system called the endocannabinoid system.
And this is a picture of it, right? So this is our zoom in signaling, right? So retrograde signaling, what that means is it applies feedback loop, right? And this is feedback pharmacology. So normally neurotransmitters flow from the presynaptic to the postsynaptic, and the endocannabinoids are manufactured on demand in response to stress and float backwards, plugging into these little receptors on the cell surfaces. So CB1 and CB2. CB1 is mainly in our brain and our central channel, all of our pain, our mind, our emotions, our memory, etc. And then all of the CB2 receptors are on our immune cells, generally in our gut, and then all of our white blood cells, macrophages, etc. The endocannabinoids are the ones that we make, and the phytocannabinoids are the compounds that you can supplement with as we're aging and we're not quite as efficient in taking care of our own body, which is the main reason why we run deficiency. And of course, there are enzymes that catalyze and create them and then break them down. But our endocannabinoid system has these 3 components working in harmony. And when messages are correct and we feel good and everything works well. But when they don't get relayed because we're endocannabinoid deficient, we start to have malfunctions, hindering our ability to adapt to outside stressors. We get sick, which is the cause of chronic conditions, and cancer is one of them. Aging and genetics is the main cause, but also poor diet, lack of exercise, chronic stress, trauma, smoking, drinking, polypharmacy. Taking pharmaceuticals are not necessarily good for your health. And then, of course, lack of touch, laughter, and love. This is how, so the opposite is how we keep this system humming very well. Taking good care of ourselves, using whole person care, and making sure that we bring this page to life.
Yeah, so caring for the endocannabinoid system, you can see I put cannabis and hemp at the very bottom. Often patients come to us in crisis, struggling, surviving, and we want to help them to get into the thrive zone. And there is a way that you can support and nourish this beautiful endocannabinoid system without even using cannabis and hemp. The issue is a lot of patients that come to us have exhausted all of these modalities. They'll say, Sherri, gosh, I take supplements, I eat well, I do mind-body medicine, I go to the chiropractor, I go acupuncture, I do massage, therapeutic touch, I do all of these things, but I'm still sick. So my invitation to those patients is explore them again after you start exploring cannabis and hemp products, right? We need to get the body into the relaxation response. The endocannabinoid system signals both the fight or flight response and the relaxation response. We cannot control the fight or flight response, but we can control the relaxation response with conscious awareness and practice, utilizing some of these tools, and also adapting a healthy lifestyle using cannabis and hemp products. Okay, THC. So this is, we use CannaKeys for a lot of our research when we're educating and when we're writing our papers and writing our programs. And so this is taken right from CannaKeys, and you can see THC, there's over 2,000 total studies. So THC is one of the cannabinoids found in the cannabis and hemp plant. The difference between cannabis and hemp is cannabis has more than 0.3% THC, where hemp has less than 0.3% THC, but THC is THC. The molecule is the molecule, and it's a multi-targeted molecule that binds with numerous cell receptors throughout the body. It particularly affects CB1 and CB2 receptors of the endocannabinoid system and supplementing our endocannabinoid to restore it to balance. So Marinol is the synthetic version of THC that was actually approved by the FDA in 1985 for the treatment of nausea and vomiting associated with cancer and chemotherapy. The issue that a lot of patients that I've worked with that have cancer that have told me about Marinol that have gotten it prescribed is that it causes dysphoria, meaning that they don't feel good. So the evidence for using THC for these conditions, this is all from CannaKeys. All of these links were live and they go to research, and you can see cancer, cancer pain, and all of the other different symptoms and side effects of cancer chemotherapy can be managed using THC.
And on the other side, CBD. So CBD is not necessarily hitting CB1 and CB2 directly like THC does, but it is promiscuous at over 70 different receptors in the body. And it buffers complex biological changes in body, mind, and emotions. CBD has over 2,000 studies as well, many of them clinical, and Epidiolex is approved as an FDA-approved version of CBD for rare pediatric seizures, and CBD is also approved, well, not approved, but in use of all of these different kinds of conditions as far as mitigating some of the symptoms and side effects of some of the pharmaceuticals. So it is a workhorse. CBD and THC work very well together. In fact, at the dispensaries, you can find a 1-to-1 oil, which is always where I start with patients that are navigating this.
And the 1-to-1 is 1 part CBD to 1 part THC. So it's half and half, a 50-50. So now we're going to get into a little bit more about the endocannabinoid system and how it can work in our body. So eat, sleep, relax, forget, protect was a phrase that was coined by endocannabinoid system researcher Vincent DiMarzo in 1998, and an amazing book written by Dr. Michelle Sexton in 2023. So Dr. DiMarzo speculated that the endocannabinoids function as stress recovery factors, and they're all survival based. Our autonomic nervous systems and this is things that happen automatically, are modulated by endocannabinoids seeking to balance all the other physiological systems in our body at the same time. So the concept of eat, sleep, relax, forget, protect holds significant meaning for health. The endocannabinoid system, as we discussed, is the network of receptors and molecules found throughout the body that regulates various physiological processes such as mood, memory, appetite, pain, and sleep. And now we're going to get into each of them individually so you can understand it.
And how to supplement.
How to supplement. So eat, appetite, and metabolism. The endocannabinoid system signals everything in the gastrointestinal tract: motility, acid fluid balance, dilation of blood vessels, nerve conduction, muscle contraction, alerting us when we need to take food. And so when you're thinking about supplementing with cannabinoids for appetite and metabolism, you're going to be choosing different products for different things. One size fits all approach doesn't work, but generally the research has supported to stimulate appetite using THC and CBG, either individually or together. If you want to suppress your appetite, you would think of using THCV or CBD. If you want to improve the gut microbiome and your GI health, CBD and CBG. And then there's different helpful cannabinoid combinations that can be used for various different systems, various different symptoms. A lot of patients that'll come to us too, don't want to inhale cannabis, and that's fine. A lot of times we can direct them to tinctures and gummies and edibles and oils that they can do that, but oftentimes it may not do the trick if they have a lot of nausea and vomiting related to cancer chemotherapy. And so we teach them how to take one puff is enough to downshift, right, the stress response around feeling nauseated. And then we teach them how to then take either a gummy or a little bit of oils to help modulate that response. So there's a lot of different ways how the appetite and metabolism can be regulated in the endocannabinoid system using various cannabinoids and products. Okay, sleep, resting and restoring. So I want you to think of the endocannabinoid system does help to regulate our circadian rhythm. This is our body's internal clock that governs physical, mental, and behavioral patterns over a 24-hour cycle, including sleep and wake cycles. So you think about what is the cornerstone of a really good night's rest, right? The ease of falling asleep, staying asleep, deep restorative sleep with nice REM dreaming in a perfect world, and then no residual drowsiness in the morning. A lot of people think that for sleep that you need to take the cannabis all at the same time before you go to bed. And plant medicine is very different than conventional medicine. And so what we teach people how to use cannabinoids is we want to modulate the stress response in the daytime. We want people to have energy in the daytime. So using helpful cannabinoids for sleep could actually start by medicating in the daytime, particularly CBD and CBG, THCV in particular combinations and ratios in the morning to promote daytime energy, modulate the stress response. But then in the evening, using THC, CBD, CBG, CBN in various ratios in the evening, stacking different multiple cannabinoids and routes for different effects. For example, people that have issues falling asleep, inhalation and tincture might be a good choice. People that have difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep, they might want to do a little bit of inhalation and tincture, but also might want to take a capsule to keep them sleeping longer, sound asleep. So there's various ways of using cannabinoids for sleep. You have anything to add? No? All right. So here we go. This next one is eat, sleep, relax. We want to modulate anxiety and fear. So the endocannabinoid system, again, like I had said, signals both the fight or flight response and the relaxation response. Stress brings people to cannabis. Anxiety is actually the #2 reason in America why people come to cannabis as medicine, while pain being #1. So high CBD and low THC products are the safest and most tolerable options for all anxiety. Full spectrum CBD products are the best starting point. Adding 1 to 2 milligrams of THC is tolerated. And this is based on research. So helpful cannabinoids for relaxation. So CBD and some of the minor cannabinoids, CBDA, CBG, CBGA, can all reduce anxiety without cognitive or sedating effects. And CBD, having CBD on board can actually counteract any THC-induced anxiety. Research has come out, new clinical trials have shown that CBG can reduce anxiety, and CBG actually helps the endocannabinoid system produce its own bliss molecule, that anandamide molecule that mimics THC. THC is very effective at lower doses, but may cause anxiety at higher doses, 5 or more milligrams. And this is especially in sensitive individuals or those that might be going through cancer treatment. And so the general consensus overall during the research supports that consumers do best with more CBD than THC for anxiety.
Yeah, and so when you go to the dispensary and they're selling you those 10 milligram edibles and these
You want to
gummies, cut them into quarters and take them with some CBD. So our next, hold on.
I'm gonna just hit this.
There we go. Is forget. So learning and memory are both deeply affected. Our CB1 receptors in the brain, the endocannabinoid system supports learning and memory by activating the hippocampus and the amygdala, helping us to learn, store, recall, and modify our experiences. Cannabinoids can affect all kinds of things that are happening in the mind and the memory and the emotions, but the effects are very biphasic. And what that means is that that low dose, that 1 to 2 milligrams, and that high dose, that 10 milligrams, can do really opposite things. So low to moderate THC can help reduce pain. I always say it's like turning the volume down on your pain at CB1. Low THC can boost memory and cognition. THC helps trim old memories in the brain during sleep, making room for new learning and also helping PTSD. High THC doses, though, impair CB1 and working memory, causing a stoned, forgetful feeling. So THC and CBD really need to balance each other. And so taking CBD together with THC ahead of the time or in that 1-to-1 is a good way forward. THC can also inhibit acetylcholinesterase, allowing more acetylcholine in the brain. And that is our memory preserving neurotransmitter. So that really does help boost memory. And THC can also stimulate BDNF, that brain derived neurotropic factor, boosting neuroplasticity for new learning and overcoming fears, phobias, and addictions. Balancing CBD and THC with the minor cannabinoids help. Another slogan that I have, maximize the benefits, minimize the harms. So not just taking THC directly. And then protect, we shift over to the immune functioning, or CB2. CB2 is on the immune cells pretty much throughout our entire body. And this endocannabinoid system helps regulate anything that is foreign, that is not me, from the body. CB2 receptors are highly expressed on 6 cells. And this tells you that the endocannabinoid system is asking for that cell signaling to help restore the balance by having that feedback at that cellular level. So if something is erroneous in that cell, CB2 receptors will come out on the membranes and looking for the endocannabinoids to help activate that to bring it back to balance. The endocannabinoid system deficiency causes errors in this communication system, which then fails to repair the body, which is why we talk about supplementation. CB2 receptors on the immune cells release endocannabinoids to regulate the immune system and fight infection. Our WBCs are highly involved in there, as are many other white blood cells and all of their components. And then CB2 receptor activation is also anti-inflammatory. So that inhibits the cytokine production and suppresses immune cell or cancer cell proliferation, and also helps inflammatory pain. Cannabinoids act as immune modulators, suppressing or stimulating the immune system depending on need. So somebody with HIV can stimulate the immune system. Somebody with autoimmune conditions can tap it down using the exact same cannabinoids. Multiple cannabinoids found in cannabis, hemp, and nutraceuticals like echinacea and PEA all help activate CB2, and beta-caryophyllene, one of our favorites.
So RSO, Rick Simpson oil, I'm sure you've all.
Do you need a gram a day for 90 days?
And that's, I'm sure a lot of people that are exploring cannabinoids are joining all of these Facebook groups, and, they're talking about high dose RSO. And that's not for everyone. It's with the 60 grams and 90 days, that can be very overwhelming and very taxing on the system, specifically if you're not dosing with multiple other cannabinoids or CBD to buffer that. But we do have, when we're working with patients, We do teach people how to titrate up if they want to use that route. And we have a very, it takes about 12 weeks. We don't do it as quickly as others, but we also balance it out, not just with the high dose THC, because that's what it is. The Rick Simpson oil or the full extract cannabis oil is high THC oil, but it needs to be balanced out with the other cannabinoids. Dr. Joe Goldstrich in his book really talks about the benefits of CBD and CBG along with high dose THC when you are treating cancer. It's different for everyone. And what we do is we customize that to each patient and what they're looking for.
And it's all personalized, right? Just like using cannabis together with chemotherapy and immunotherapies. Cannabinoids are potentiators, right? And so they can potentiate that chemotherapy, which can allow for lower chemotherapy dosing, which would lessen side effects. However, if it potentiates the effects, it also may become more toxic. So patients should lower the doses of cannabinoids during chemo days and a buffer a couple of days before and a couple of days after. Immunotherapies, same thing. The goal is to rev up the immune system. And so we want to inflame the system to start targeting those cancer cells and uncloak the cancer cells, and to be able to treat that like Keytruda and Opdivo. But high doses of THC or THCA, the acidic version, can suppress the immune system with the anti-inflammatory effects. So we would say to hold the RSO during cancer treatment days, keeping THC to 25 milligrams, CBD to 100 milligrams for overall wellness support, but not taking high doses. The key is spacing and working with a cannabis clinician that helps you put it all together and make sense of it. And then also, same thing with maintenance dosing. If somebody does get the declaration of NED or no evidence of disease, you want to continue to use some degree of cannabinoids at least the next year, or for many patients, Bonnie Goldstein in this Cannabis is Medicine book that I was just looking at, really tells people it might be for life that you're taking some cannabinoids, but that's okay, because it's all very, very doable now with tinctures and topicals and capsules, soft gels, etc. So there should be some kind of a maintenance dosing, and beta caryophyllene, as we brought up earlier, also continues to activate those CB2 receptors, and you can get that in cannabis and hemp formulations.
Shopping for products, create your own toolkit. Just like, when patients are working with us, we like to educate them on all the different methods of administration. So when you think of topicals, think of outside. Lotions, creams, balms, salves, roll-ons, right? Those all go on the skin. They doesn't go into systemic circulation, so you're not going to get high, right? Then you have the tinctures, the oils, drops, sublingual, which is under the tongue. The mouth is a sponge. You drop it in, you hold it under your tongue, and then you swallow it, and so part of it gets absorbed under your sublingual vein, and then the rest of it gets absorbed into your systemic circulation through your GI tract, right? Different onset and duration. Tinctures, we always tell people to be cautious when using high THC. And then edibles. You have the gummies, capsules, candies, drinks by milligrams, oils, foods, baked goods, etc. Again, you need to be cautious with THC, not as much with CBD, because when you take an edible in, it changes. So the Delta 9 converts to Delta 11, making it much stronger in the brain, plugging into those receptors really, really tightly so you can feel it a little bit longer.
And once it's in the body, you can't get it out.
That's right.
Right? So you might have 8 hours of dysphoria if it's too high.
Right, but you can be mitigated
Yep.
by being smart.
CBD and dosing.
In dosing, exactly. And then you have transdermal patches. And so this is systemic basal dosing by milligrams. The patch that people put on. Generally, onset is 20 minutes, duration is 24 hours. I don't see very many patches available.
Not anymore. Some good medical dispensaries.
Yep. And then you have inhalation. So flowers, oils, concentrates. Here's the example. Ready? Joints, blunts, spleefs, bongs, pipes, one-hitters, vape pens, dab rigs, dry herb vaporizer. There's all different kinds of what I call durable medical equipment out there to help people inhale. The safest is the dry herb vaporizer. Inhalation isn't the primary method that we teach to, people to consume, although with the nausea and vomiting, a lot of patients do need it, and one puff can be just enough. in order for them to be able to get in the oils, the capsules, gummies, etc. So where to purchase? So cannabis CBD and cannabis THC products can be found at dispensaries, and then hemp CBD products can be found on online retailers or CBD shops. And we're going to talk about safe shopping at the end.
Yeah, and to shop, you might want to explore Weed Maps or Leafly so that you can check the menus at the medical dispensaries before you go. So there are side effects, just like with any medicine. CBD doesn't have many. If you have very high dosing, you might get tired, you might have a little diarrhea, and that's what they found in the clinical trials to prove out Epidiolex. Generally, you don't see a lot of interactions with other pharmaceuticals at less than 100 milligrams a day. THC has a little bit more at risk, but it's all, again, biphasic. So higher doses, 5, 10, 20 milligrams, you might find some drowsiness, tachycardia, changes in cognition, etc. But generally, interactions are mitigated at 20 milligrams a day or less, especially with some of the other pharmaceuticals. And then the side effects might be the effects that somebody wants, especially when we want to stimulate appetite by having the munchies, being able to relax and sleep, which is really helpful for people suffering from insomnia and stress. And again, what we're trying to do in our clinical conversations with patients is to help them find that minimum effective dose, the therapeutic response that they want, but not impairment or not where you're having side effects, etc. So it's that Goldilocks dosing. Start low, go slow. Microdose to mimic the endocannabinoid signaling, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime. The endocannabinoid system is going off all the time. So you want to have, if you're deficient, some of these plant nutrients in the body circulating around the systemic circulation at all times. CBD during the day, THC and 1-to-1 in the evening. Stacking these products, we always say that toolkit is your best friend. So you can mix and match from all of them. That keeps your tolerance low on any one formulation, as well as the cost managed. And then safety with other pharmaceuticals. Many of these do use the CYP450 enzymes and all of the other downstream enzymes. And what we tell people is to kind of follow the grapefruit rules, space the drug from the cannabinoids. I always tell people, take a big glass of water with your pharmaceuticals, eat something, wait, let them sort of move through the system, and then take your cannabinoids an hour or two later. And that's the best way to be safe. And of course, journal and track your results. Talk to your providers, be open with them about using this, because you do need to have that mutual dialogue.
Okay, so now we're going to get into therapeutic cannabis experience, working toward optimal consumer outcomes. So patients sitting right there in the middle. So when we're working with patients, we always want to look at the research. That's where we use Canna-Keys. We have all of our books. What does the research say? But then we also want to ask, what does the consumer want? What's important to you? How do you want to live your life? How and why do you want to use this? And then we look at real world evidence. Elisabeth and I together have taken care of over 6,000 patients in the past 10 years. The majority of them with cancer and on autoimmune conditions, chronic pain. And so we use our clinical judgment and look at trials or observation and what other people have done well with. And then we guide, we educate, and we support. We're your coaches. So we do a basic assessment, a holistic assessment. We do education and support on the endocannabinoid system and the endocannabinoid dome, which is the larger environment that interacts with the endocannabinoid system. We always want to support the endocannabinoid system with lifestyle as medicine. So our intake forms are very long, but they're detailed. The more information that we have, we can help people. We educate on all of the various consumption methods and help people choose products that align with their personal goals. We teach people how to track. We do follow-up, adjustments, teaching, and self-titration.
Yeah, and I always like to bring up this book as well, Healing with Cancer for Whole Person Care. We practice whole person care. You're not a diagnosis, you are a whole person. And we want to make sure that you're treated as such.
Okay, so we're going to go over some case studies now. And so on the therapeutic use of cannabis. And so the therapeutic use of cannabis, you hear, I'm always trying to change the dialogue and the stigma around that word high. So that hope, inspiration, and growth for and healing, right? Spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, and social. So cannabis works so well for so many different conditions because it supports the body's capacity for self-healing and resilience and promotes the relaxation response, correcting signaling at the cellular level for systemic homeostasis. So the American Cannabis Nurses Association, which we are both members of, I sit on the board of directors, Elisabeth was past treasurer, has defined therapeutic use of cannabis. It's the use of cannabis products for medicinal, wellness, and healing purposes. It is personal and subjective to each consumer, with objective criteria being improvement in one of the 5 health domains without negatively impacting any of the others. So each individual is unique, so is the care they deserve. And our role as nurses is to educate, coach, guide, and comfort as needed.
And it's all personalized.
It's all personalized. So this is Marta. So this woman you saw at the beginning on the video, the doctor couldn't find her cancer anymore. Well, I met her when she, years ago. This was back in 2017. She was a 72-year-old hospice patient. I did a presentation for hospice and palliative care, and I got called to go see her in her home to educate her. Her family had bought all this cannabis products. They didn't know how to use it, but she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, unresectable tumor, chemo and radiation failed. She was sent home on hospice to die. At the time that I met her, she was unable to eat, unable to walk. She had severe pain, insomnia, and she was at the end of her life. So when I'm working with patients in this situation, so it's always a conversation with the family and then a conversation with the patient, and then we bring everyone together, right? So Marta was okay. She, basically her goal was to relieve her suffering of cancer pain at the end of her life, get a good night's sleep, and do legacy work with her family. She wasn't planning on surviving. So we came up with a care plan for her that was very, very modest in the cannabinoids that we were using. She was just using the Rick Simpson oil in CBD format, so full extract cannabis oil, 100 milligrams a day in divided doses during the day and evening, had a little bit of THC in it, and then a little tiny bit of the high dose THC Rick Simpson oil at bedtime, and then a lot of CBD topicals all over her body. The interesting thing, kept checking in on Marta, and Marta was not dying. She ended up calling me 5 months later. Literally, it was a week before Christmas, and she basically said, Sherri, they can't find the cancer anymore. It's gone. Can you help me come off of some of my pharmaceuticals? Cannabis saved her life. She came off of some of her drugs. And then we had to go on a journey from death and dying to alive and thriving, which is very interesting. And her dosing today is much different. She generally uses mostly full spectrum CBD products, immunity capsules, trilogy tincture, topicals, and a 1-to-1 oil. And she's been in remission since 2017. And this is Marta in 2021. We were filming a documentary and she gave full permission for her to be recorded and to share her story. And this was her and I in a cannabis field recording.
Beautiful.
Another patient that I've taken care of just recently, over this past year, her name is Karen, and she had melanoma of the eye and a neuroendocrine tumor. 77-year-old female, neuroendocrine tumor and melanoma in the eye. I don't know about you, but I would be very, very scared to get chemotherapy in my eyes. They told her it was going to be very, very painful. So she came to me, and so her goal was to be able to tolerate chemo in her eyes with minimal pain and to also shrink her neuroendocrine tumor. So we came up with the care plan for her, dosing multiple different cannabinoids and terpenes, doing a digestive tincture in the daytime, trilogy tincture in the night. The beta caryophyllene was very, very prolific for her. There's research around beta caryophyllene and protecting of the eyes. So we used that. She did immunity capsules twice a day. These were non-impairing. And then she also did high THC oil from her caregiver 4 times a day. So she tolerated the chemo in the eye. Everyone was very surprised. She did not have any pain at all. And the melanoma in her eye is now gone. The unfortunate thing was that she's still struggling with her neuroendocrine tumor. So they had to add a new drug to her regimen called lanreotide because the tumor was secreting way too much serotonin. So we actually had to decrease a lot of her THC products due to the side effects with this other medicine. So the dosing today for her is just full spectrum CBD tinctures, digestive and trilogy, immunity capsules, and just small doses of THC oil in the evening. And she's still on her cancer care journey. Tammy, and this is another interesting patient that they took care of. I actually took care of Tammy's mother before with Alzheimer's, and we took care of her and actually was able to help her have a good end of life. And then Tammy,
amazing woman.
An amazing woman. And then Tammy came to us, with a diagnosis of left lung cancer. So she was 55 years old, and this was over a year ago. I wrote about her in my Substack. She actually wrote a podcast, she came on my podcast, and she had left lung cancer. All of her lung lymph nodes were affected. The tumor was actually blocking her left bronchi, making surgical intervention too dangerous. So the goals of her cannabis was to shrink the cancer cells to allow for the surgery, to relieve her suffering and improve her quality of life during chemo treatments, to ease her anxiety, manage nausea and insomnia, preserve her mental health, and to help her relax. And so she chose to do the high dose RSO oil. And she did do the gram a day, and she balanced it out with high dose RSO CBD oil, about 100 milligrams a day. And then during her treatment days, sometimes when she got nauseated, she did a little bit of inhalation, but not much. It was just during those days, and people are like, wow, lung cancer, you're having them inhale. And it's just basically, it was a special case. There was one other lung cancer patient that I did take care of that had such severe nausea and vomiting, he could not get any of the oils down. And it was one puff that was enough that allowed him to be able to get the oils in so he could have a better day. So the interesting thing with Tammy was after 3 rounds of low dose chemotherapy, her scan and using the high dose RSO oil treatment, her scan revealed 80% tumor shrinkage. The oncologist was amazed. Her surgery was scheduled 1 month after her final chemo infusion. And the interesting thing was during her surgery, the cancer was gone, yet they still removed half of her lung for biopsy. The results showed no cancer, original tumor was gone, no evidence of disease. Her oncologist actually recommended a targeted therapy called Tagrisso for 3 years. But when she asked if it would actually change her outcome, the answer was no. So her dosing today is about 100 milligrams of CBD in divided doses. She does do a 1-to-1 oil at nighttime and occasional psilocybin microdosing for post-cancer depression.
Yeah, Tammy's a hero. We love her in our network.
Yeah.
Okay, so shopping, we always say start with safe CBD, and CBD is the starting point, and then you add THC in there. We have a slogan called Green Nurse Approved. And above all, whole plant quality matters. We talk about the entourage effect and using multiple cannabinoids to blanket the system. That's how things in this side of the equation work in cannabis medicine. Whole plants is good. So cannabis CBD is 0.3% or greater, hemp CBD 0.3% or less. And that is what allows hemp to be sold online in shops. Transparency, make sure that you're doing business with a company that is got good customer service and good business practices, good manufacturing practices, and certified organic is always preferred. Always make sure that the medicines you buy are lab tested and that you can find that certificate of analysis, revealing the potency, the purity, making sure that it's free from contaminants and residual solvents. Accurate labels are very important. Is that dropper 10 milligrams or is it 100 milligrams? That really matters. And these formulations and potencies can be all over the board. So call the free nurse line. You can always talk to us about what you're finding out there in the dispensaries, and then talk to us about what we do at Bloom. So to wrap this up, Bloom Hemp is our company, along with Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse. We run an ecosystem. And if you hold your phone up on the left side of that, you can scan that, and that is going to take you to a short intake form, which we will then reply with a free care plan. Lifestyle tips, product recommendations and the rationale as to how and why they might work for you, and then how to intersperse that with some of the other medications based on what you tell us on the intake form. And then on the right side is the shop. We created a code, CSC20, for your group. I'm making that an evergreen code that doesn't go away, so you can always save 20% on your cart. And what makes us different is that we are woman and nurse owned, USDA organic, doctor and nurse formulated, Ayurvedic inspired, symptom targeted formulas, and offering the free nurse line, free care plan, and a free network that you can join.
And then we also have a couple of different blogs. Ask the Green Nurse is a blog that we started. You can always ask us any questions. We have a Substack that we've actually produced. People do actually write in and ask very thoughtful questions. And so we provide the research and the information, and then I blog about it so we can educate and inform the public on the most common questions that patients and consumers may have.
Yeah, Sherri's been the Green Nurse for a long time, and it just really sticks. I'm hoping to get her syndicated pretty soon. And we also have a free medical cannabis guide. It's a 7-page guide that goes into the details of everything you need to know about cannabis medicine. And you can just scan this little QR code or go to holisticcaring.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you can download it on the media section. And then we have a free network where you can join us. We have lots of things in the feed all the time, but it's a great place to interact with other people on this journey. Free introduction to cannabis program, free ABCs of CBD, which is all narrated for you, a free patient portal to connect, plant medicine support group, monthly clinical conversations, our patient programs, provider training, and mentoring are all there. So we are also having clinical conversations at the end of the month.
Yep. So we're going to dial in. So I'm actually part of a breast cancer support group. I'm working with another group. And so I've been doing presentations for them, and I decided to take a deep dive, and I literally spent 6 weeks creating this amazing presentation on the therapeutic use of cannabinoids for healing breast cancer, because it's nuanced just a little bit differently, the different types of breast cancer, getting into whether it's triple negative, HER2 positive, ER, PR positive, etc. It's important to know, and there are specific tips, tricks, hugs, and nugs that we're going to provide in this presentation, and you're all invited to attend that as well.
Yep. And with that, we've got just a few references for this.
Just a few.
Just a few. And then we can go to Q&A. So thank you, everybody. Let's take a look at the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Sherri. That was a lot of information. I wanted to first ask if we're able to stay maybe 5 minutes over. Is that okay to answer some questions?
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Thank you.
No,
Whenever you want the last question to be, just say last question, Rebecca, and that'll be the last question.
Okay.
No, we're good.
Okay, and I just hit enter on what I had typed up earlier. So those were some of the research I wanted to give you. And people asking about slides. We don't give out our slides, but the presentation is recorded, so you can always watch it again. Yeah.
Yes. So the first question is, you kind of mentioned about how to find a good one, but I think it's where can I purchase CBD and THC?
So in dispensaries, THC is regulated. So there's the cannabis, the Control Commission, and Department of Cannabis Control. So there's a licensing process. So cannabis THC and cannabis CBD are only in dispensaries. So you can go to Weedmaps, so WEEDMAPS.com. I'll put that in the chat.
However, a lot of dispensaries, and we've been doing this for a very, very long time, are not carrying high quality CBD. A lot of what they're carrying is CBD isolate. It's missing the rest of the cannabinoids and terpenes and essential fatty acids and all of the other minor cannabinoids that make it beneficial. So, and we've been doing this for a long time, and that's why
the real problem with dispensaries is they're choosing to carry less and less medicine because it doesn't sell. They don't have enough medical patients going to the dispensaries, and what happens is you can get cannabis beverages and drinks, you can get gummies, you can get high THC products, you can get vapes, you can get flour, concentrate, sauce, shatter, wax, all kinds of crazy stuff, but the medicine is gone, which is why we ended up purchasing Bloom Hemp 2 years ago, because we needed a place where we could take people for CBD, CBG, CBN, THCV, and the acidic version, CBGA, CBDA. You can't find them at the dispensaries. Like, I started in this as a clinician back in 2015, and it used to be in the dispensaries, but less and less they're carrying it. But Papa and Barkley is pretty much a tried and true that you can find at many of the medical dispensaries.
And their products are very good. And
yeah.
they carry a very nice 1-to-1 oil. So the 1 part THC, 1 part CBD, and an oil.
Yeah.
And their products are nice.
And also Level is micro tabs. You can find those at dispensaries as well. And they come in different cannabinoid formulations. They're isolates, made down into a tab. But
so if you took it, you could take the tab with the full spectrum CBD product.
But a lot of them are very strong. Like the THC tab is 25 milligrams, and then they have 50 milligrams and 100 milligrams now. So obviously you're not going to be using those. A tincture, a Papa and Barkley tincture, you can take, and they have different ratios. 1-to-1 is really what you can find, and then pair that with Bloom Hemp formulations on the CBD side. And that way we can create a good plan for you and work with you on that.
Thank you. You shared a few examples about how cannabis can get rid of cancer. Does CBD oil ever expire?
So so CBD and THC. So I see this, Robin Bennett. So it's not legal here, and in states where cannabis is not legal, 38 medical states have dispensaries. 39. Nebraska is on the fence trying to get their stuff together. But all of the medical states have THC. The other states have hemp CBD allowed, and an online retailer like us is allowed to ship to all 50 states. And that is how you can get cannabinoids. So CBD, CBG, THCV, the acidic versions, etc. They are legal to ship based on the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized hemp CBD. Now, there are some bad actors in the marketplace that have created intoxicating products with THC in the hemp markets, and it's caused problems for the people like us doing business.
And also there's a lot of companies that are creating synthetic versions.
Yeah.
And those are dangerous as well. We do not promote the use of synthetic cannabinoids at all, because of the danger of what it does to the endocannabinoid system.
And we don't know what those compounds are for. I mean, they're Frankensteining compounds that you then put in your body, and we're not sure. We know that this plant is safe. People have been using it for 5,000 to 10,000 years. And using the whole plant formulation is fine, but HHC, we don't have any data on that. THCP, THCO, all of this stuff. It's crazy. Back to shelf life. Products have a 2-year shelf life. So you can buy something and then have it in your fridge or on your counter. Just keep it out of direct sunlight.
So what happens over time is the cannabinoids degrade.
Yeah.
Right? So it means it becomes less effective. And so some of the oils that I have that have become less potent, instead of me ingesting them, I put them on my skin. I use them as a topical, so it doesn't go to waste.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next one is, I'm still on letrozole. I think have diabetes, high blood pressure. Can I take CBD?
Yes. Again, this goes back to spacing. And then also monitoring, right? So take the cannabinoids at a time where you're not taking the other pharmaceuticals. Make sure you're well hydrated. Eat something in between. Think of your body as a choo-choo train, right? You're processing the pharmaceutical. Allow some time. Be hydrated. Then take the cannabinoids, and you should be okay. But the thing is, with blood pressure medicine and diabetes medicine, you may need to adjust your dosing, which is why we want people to have that back and forth dialogue with their clinicians, because many people, after taking CBD for a year or so, all of a sudden, or even 3 months, 6 months, they notice their blood pressure has dropped. It doesn't drop precipitously. Sometimes people have alcohol and then they smoke a little cannabis and it can drop right then and there. But just taking CBD routinely, I see people's blood sugars normalize, not normalize necessarily, but A1Cs come down, and people need less insulin when they're taking CBD. And so, again, quality matters as well. We want people to make sure that they're taking good quality CBD, not necessarily an isolate. Don't buy your CBD at a gas station. But over time, it can absolutely help to be able to maybe reduce the dosage of some of the other medications, working with your clinician, which then gives you less side effects.
Wonderful, thank you. I know you talked about Rick Simpson oil already, but do you have any other comments or anything that you would like to share?
So if you're new to cannabis and you haven't used Rick Simpson oil, that is not the first product that I would start with at all. So when patients come to us and they're like, listen, I want to use Rick Simpson oil, what we need to do is put the training wheels on first. And the training wheels is waking up the endocannabinoid system using a variety of full spectrum CBD products and some THC, like a little bit of THC in the daytime in the full spectrum products, and then dosing at nighttime with the Rick Simpson oil after a couple of weeks. Because what happens is it is really high dose. One little dollop of that oil could be as high as 75 milligrams of THC.
Yeah, that rice grain is 40, 50, 60 milligrams of THC.
Yeah.
Or a little size of a pea.
Yeah, it depends upon what it tests at. So when we're looking at Rick Simpson oil, we always, when patients come to us, we always ask, do you have a certificate of analysis? Because I want to know what is the percentage of THC in that 1 gram? And that percentage lets me know that, okay, if it tests at 60%, that means there's 600 milligrams of THC in that gram of oil. So then you break it down and then you divide that into dosing, and then you can kind of give a guesstimate as to how many milligrams. So people that are new, again, you do not want to start with Rick Simpson oil. You want to start with CBD, wake up the endocannabinoid system, and then fold in the THC at nighttime. And then you can always reach out to us. We do have a way of teaching people how to self-titrate that up. That's what we do.
Well, yeah, and a Holistic Caring and the Green Nurse, we have a patient tab, and there's consultations. So it's not that much money. You have us for a month, because we build in follow-up care, because people need follow-up care. It's not just a one and done. We want people to be able to work with us ongoing. So I see a question about maintenance trials.
There's none. There should be.
Well, the problem is that most of those 10,000 studies that were just published in the meta-analysis are, lab and animal studies, because we're not studying this in patients, human trials significantly enough. Now, Sativax is a 1-to-1 CBD THC oil put out by GW Pharmaceuticals, now Jazz, and they have done trials to see the efficacy of it, reducing nausea and vomiting, also helping with sleep. But they also found that in conjunction with Temodar, it improved lifespan, by 30%, taking it collectively together. So, there are some companies doing that, but they are a pharmaceutical company, right? And so it takes billions of dollars to take these drugs to market. And so right now, we're working with observational trials, which is, what we call real world evidence. And that has to be good enough. And then there's people like us that have dedicated careers to be able to help people steer, because it is steering. And don't be afraid of cannabis medicine. The whole point is you start something, you monitor, you track, you make adjustments. You move a little further, you make adjustments.
And Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, who is the grandfather of cannabis, I had an interaction with him before he died. And my question to him was, do our cannabinoid requirements change over time as we change? And the answer was yes, it does. As you start to modulate the endocannabinoid system and get to root cause healing, you have downstream of all different systems and things start to normalize out. So even what I take as cannabis as medicine is so much different than what I took 10 years ago when I first started on my journey.
Yeah.
And then let's go.
Thank you. I have a direct message that was directed to me. I'm looking for help to stimulate food ingestion to gain weight and energy. I have esophageal stomach cancer, cancer stage 4, going through chemo every other week. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, it sounds like a patient that I'm taking care of right now, actually. That would actually require, honestly, a consultation. There's, so much that goes into it. For me, I would need to look at all the other different drugs that he's on too, because you have to think about this. If you're on 5 or more pharmaceuticals, there's a 50% chance that they're interacting. 10 or more pharmaceuticals, 100% they're interacting and not in your best and highest interest. So it would be really prudent for me to have more information on this client, on this person that's asking this question with an intake form to be able to answer, in a way that makes sense for him in particular.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We'll go till 7.
Yeah, I'm looking at one about a heart attack. So, cardiovascular issues, right? You really want to work with CBD as the mainstay. CBG are both anti-cancer medicine formulations, and they're safe. THC causes the tachycardia and can cause some arrhythmias.
And here's the reason why. If you're just taking THC without CBD, what happens is the vasodilatory effect of cannabinoids in the THC. So it opens up blood vessels, your blood pressure drops, and your heart rate picks up. So it's a compensatory mechanism. So you really want to use more full spectrum CBD with a trace amount of THC in it and CBG products, as opposed to going straight to THC if you have a cardiac condition. We actually did an interview with a cardiologist on this, on heart conditions. It's on our podcast. And we've written and we've done a clinical conversation also on our YouTube channel, all on cardiovascular health, heart health, and using cannabinoids.
Why don't you take the one about tamoxifen? Does THC or CBD prohibit tamoxifen from working properly? The answer is yes. You've been doing a lot of breast cancer research.
And we're going to be going over that in detail
on the 28th.
On the 28th, and in detail on that. So it depends upon what you're using tamoxifen for, right? If you're using tamoxifen to block estrogen, or are you using it as an anti-cancer? It does 2 different things at the same time. Tamoxifen is a prodrug, meaning that it converts into a different type of drug, and cannabinoids can actually inhibit that process. So it depends upon what you're using tamoxifen for.
But you have to be careful with it. I would keep the CBD dose low.
Keep the CBD dose low. Doesn't mean that you can't use it, because I have taken care of patients that are on tamoxifen that use cannabinoids effectively. There was actually another one too about RSO that I wanted to. Cancer Facebook groups, people often spam them with RSO paste made highly suspicious. Are there scientific studies with control groups? I don't know about control groups or double-blind placebo, but this book here has a lot of research in it. Written by Dr. Joel Goldstrich. He's a friend of ours, the Cancer Cannabis Connection. But we have seen RSO and the case study of Tammy working effectively with low dose chemo and shrinking her tumor 80%. So she could, and actually shrunk it at 80%. And then when they went in to remove the 20%, it was gone. So it did remove the cancer, but it wasn't just the RSO alone. It was a combination of conventional care and the plant medicines together.
Yeah, and as far as studies affecting blood cancer genetic mutations,
ID1 gene.
Yeah, again, CBD. And in fact, I was just skimming the cancer in Bonnie Goldstein's book. There's a cancer section, and they showed leukemia cells actually shrinking and causing apoptosis within 6 hours of CBD dosing. So, again, you're not going to find a whole lot, although the link I put in for the cancer.gov NIH studies, a lot of the studies are in that link. So you can dig into there, spend an entire week reading all of those studies. Maybe you'll find a little bit of what you're looking for.
What do you recommend for leg and hand neuropathy? Okay.
CBD and THC, the acidics as well.
Yes.
CBDA, THCA.
So immunity capsules.
Plants.
Bloom Hemp has an immunity capsule that a lot of our cancer patients go on. It doesn't have any THC in it. It's CBD, CBDA, CBG, CBGA. No THC, and then also a topical. So you want to think of inside, outside in helping to manage neuropathy. Also, and this has nothing to do with cannabis, but There is some research that I've been looking into for high dose melatonin for helping with neuropathy and also killing cancer cells. So that's another area. Genuine ECACT
Yeah,
is also
ECACT is-
ECACT is also another product that our patients are using to combat, it cleans out the gut and cleans out the liver and helps with, activate CB2 receptors. So generally people are using not just one thing, they're using a combination of things, and it's generally all holistic.
Mhm. Yeah.
Our THC and
Yeah.
yes, and
So
lymphedema.
lymphedema, yes, again, but so is dry brushing, right? So lymphedema, you want to get the lymph moving. In fact, Ayurvedic principles, if you just go on Amazon and just find dry brush, that you could start to sweep, from the lymph towards the heart, from the legs, from the groin and the abdomen, the back, etc., towards the heart.
So
there are YouTube videos on that as well.
So basically CBD or THC being useful in lymphedema, what my question to Sheila would be is, what other conditions, what other symptoms do you have? So it's not necessarily about treating the lymphedema, but the symptoms that go along with it. That's pretty much how I would answer that. Is there a certain hemp or CBD product that would help me? There isn't one particular certain brand that would help you. Again, we would look at
But
your
osteosarcoma, you want some THC.
You want THC.
Yeah.
So basically, we would look at your osteosarcoma when you were diagnosed. How are you currently being treated? What is conventional care doing for you? What are you eating? What are you drinking? How are you sleeping? Right? And then we would fold in cannabinoids. Generally, we start patients off with full spectrum CBD, CBG, CBN, the acidics, and then fold in THC as tolerated.
Yeah, and osteosarcoma, glioblastoma,
You do need THC.
lung cancer, THC is definitely needed for all of them, and high doses. Again, going back to Bonnie Goldstein's book, she has a patient who is famous, AJ, who had osteosarcoma, doing very well, but was using hundreds of milligrams of THC per day, and that was able to help. So
the person with going through chemotherapy, having a triple bypass, I don't want to make any blanket statements without looking at your intake form. It would require a discussion. There are cannabinoids that could be very helpful, to manage what you
CBD
have.
and CBG.
Yeah.
CBD and CBG, full spectrum CBD is fine to take with heart disease. It's not going to be having an issue.
Okay, our phone number,
yeah,
what we put in the chat, the 970-404-HOPE, which is 4673. That's our free nurse line that you can call, and we can, discuss with you.
Yeah, severe anxiety and fatigue. It's again, eat, sleep, relax, forget, protect. That is the endocannabinoid system. And actually helping the anxiety is going to help sleep. And sleep is going to improve the fatigue, etc. Right?
Can CBD and THC be used with blood thinners? Yes, but you have to be very careful, right? I actually had to go, I'm on blood thinners right now. I'll disclose, I got diagnosed with a blood clot in January, and trust me, it was not very fun.
No.
But yes, I am using cannabinoids, but I'm using them very, very differently than I used to. So no inhalation whatsoever, but generally using a combination of full spectrum CBD products. And I do a little bit of THC at bedtime in the form of a gummy or an edible. But yes, you can use cannabinoids on blood thinners. The issue comes in if you're using Coumadin. You just have to be very careful because it can actually, cannabinoids, CBD in particular, can be more thinning of the blood. THC, I'm actually going to be doing a presentation, creating one on people that have blood clots because it seems to be such a side effect. And we're seeing more and more people clotting more than ever, and how that they can manage that. THC in particular could possibly stimulate blood clots at high doses. But if you're already on a blood thinner, you're pretty safe. So a 1-to-1 might be good for you. But again, I wouldn't want to make a recommendation without knowing your past medical history, some of the medicines that you're on, and your lifestyle factors.
Okay, so we've got
Brand?
another, what brand and form do you recommend for severe anxiety?
Bloom Hemp.
So Bloom Hemp, come to us. You've got a free intake form, a free care plan. And the whole goal is, just go to the shop. There's a calming oil, which is CBD and CBN, which can also, there's plenty of botanicals, lemongrass, hops.
We have a calming bundle, which
Yep.
includes
and
a full
that's a full
spectrum.
spectrum
capsule.
capsule, which has about 1 milligram of THC in it, 37 milligrams of CBD based on the lab results of that. That is very calming. And then also just, any T65, right? T65 is our flagship gummy with 50 milligrams of CBD, 5 CBG, 5 CBN, and 5 of THC, which is the maximum allowed, but based on the weight, it is able to be shipped.
We
have people cut it in half or even in
Quarters.
four. And it's good actually for dementia, for memory, for cognition. That 1 milligram of THC can subdue the anxiety, and then that would give you quite a bit of CBD in there as well. As far as finding the podcast,
You could just go to YouTube and look up the Green Nurse podcast.
but also at holisticcaring.com, just scroll to the bottom, and there's a little icon there for YouTube. Click on that. It'll take you right to the YouTube with the Green Nurse podcast.
Yep, we've been podcasting for over 8 years.
So
This is my
there's
8th
8 years
year.
of content in there. You can
There's
binge.
a lot. And then Elizabeth and I, when we merged our companies together, started doing clinical
4 years ago.
conversations. Yeah.
Okay. Can you say more about not using if you were on oral med that says not to take grapefruit?
Oh, okay.
Um,
So you think about grapefruit. So when
It
a lot
all
of
has to do with liver enzymes.
it has to do with liver enzymes and metabolism of drugs, right? You want the drug that you're taking, that you're prescribed, to work and to get out your body appropriately. Cannabinoids can sometimes make drugs linger in your systemic circulation a little bit longer, right? And that can cause side effects. So we want to space it apart. So like Elizabeth said, you take your pharmaceutical first, you eat something, drink some water, you wait, and then you take your cannabinoid. The only thing that would be different would be inhalation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about spacing. And then there's a question about Ritalin. So Ritalin is interesting, right? So it's a stimulant, and you're taking it for ADHD and hyperactivity or etc., right? So cannabinoids can be very helpful for those same conditions. So CBD, CBG, THC, THCV. So at Bloom Hemp, we have Focus, which is CBD, CBG, and THCV, together with lion's mane, reishi, and yerba mate. And that improved productivity, concentration, and focused energy in a study that we did. I spent $20,000 to do real world evidence gathering.
And that study's right on the
that
website.
study, and that's on the website under research. But low doses of THC can also help. And it is okay to take with Ritalin. You might want to, again, space that out. Maybe because Ritalin is generally dosed in the morning.
And it also depends upon how the Ritalin makes you feel.
Right.
So I'll just disclose again, I've had an ADHD diagnosis since I was a
But
child.
did you ever take it?
I took Adderall. I didn't like Ritalin. So Ritalin, we didn't.
It's similar.
It's Adderall.
They're similar.
So, but now that I've been taking cannabinoids, I don't need to take any medications because I have completely 100% have rewired my brain in such a way that I can manage my stress. And the ADHD, a component of it is anxiety and rumination and, hyperactivity and not going, and it can help me to really focus in on what is I need to do.
Okay, and sun-grown versus artificial light, organically fed, synthetic fed. So growing plants, you do want to be careful. Outside, if you're in LA, you have a great climate. Plant them in May, harvest them in October, November, and September sometimes, plant in April. So sun-grown is wonderful. Organically fed is always the best. As far as artificial light, the indoor grows, it's a different animal, but you just want to make sure that you're controlling for pests, that you're not using pesticides or anything
Talk about
that
medicine.
is
Tell them about medicine.
oh, medicine. Well, yeah, you use pesticides. You put ladybugs in with the plants. We actually went to a 13 acres, 300,000 plants indoor grow up in Canada when we were part of an Australian company with a global clinic. We built and ran a global clinic until funding got tight. But it is, there's all kinds of ways. Jorge Cervantes, you can find his book on Amazon. Ed Rosenthal has growing books on Amazon's, etc. And so you can always just keep going to the library and find some of these as well. Let me just hit enter again, and there.
You did it just to one person.
Whoops. Sorry. Okay. So
You're gonna do everyone in the meeting. Yeah, there you go.
All right. So there's our contact, our websites. Again, if you scroll to the bottom of the websites, you can find our YouTube, so you can watch past shows. They're all cataloged based on what they are. And you're also welcome. I really love doing these and being with you and coming here once a year. We really appreciate that, the invitation and to spread the news. So yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, we'll get rid of our Q&A thing.
Yeah.
So
Any other questions?
Yes, Elizabeth, for the intake, the link, how do they get that link?
okay, so now that
We'll
I'm
just
not,
do it.
let me just, I'll drop it into the chat real quick.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's under the services tab at bloomhemp.com. So if we just click here and go back to Zoom, and I'll put this in the chat.
Bloomhemp.com services, and there you go. Perfect.
There you go. There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for just such an informative presentation. I think your passion and knowledge just speaks so clearly, so we appreciate you coming back and dedicating your time to us and also just the general community to just educate people about this important, something that can, medical cannabis that can be so supportive and healing for all, really.
We want, it's kind of like, it works if you work it, but you've got to have a process, right? It's kind of like that old AA slogan, right? You just be conscious, be open with your providers and have, that whole person care. It's not just about conventional care. It's not just about cannabis care. You need both. They play very well together, but you need people that are like us that have been doing the research and doing this for the past decade.
And that's the thing is people will say, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? I go, everything works and nothing works. We need to figure out what's going to work for you. So it's really, you're on a healing journey to discover what is going to help you to get to that place where you want to be. Right. And it's different for everyone. And that's what we do as nurses.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you shared so many resources. Yes, wonderful presentation.